So addresses the nihilism, but how does it address nihilism? Well, nihilism is associated with the mechanistic view that science uses. It's very much utilitarian. If it's an instrumental gain, then that's what science is. So what's biosemiotics? Biosemiotics is just a pure way of trying to understand what's going on here. When animals have a conversation, and they do, it's not really consequential for us. We can't really, make wood and furniture out of that. But it's there. And we might be able to read it. And first of all, we should acknowledge that it's there. And in fact, it belies a deeper ontology that is the semiotic ontology of life. And that sounds bold. And I've also not said semiotic, I've said semiotic, so I must be pretentious AF. And yet, that's exactly the problem. Because semiosis, which is the key word in biosemiotics, the process of a sign, we'll get to what a sign is later, but that process of a sign, another word for that is meaning making, the creation of meaning. Meaning itself is sort of verb-like, meaning, but very clearly meaning making. And what I'm saying is biology, ontologically, literally, it is meaning composed. And if you look at DNA, that's a sign system. And so it's meaning all the way down. DNA is a sign, RNA is a sign. So it's absolutely semiotic. It's not information, it's meaning. There's actual meaning. Because there's meaning from the RNA and the DNA. They mean proteins. Something makes the connection between the two. And that something is called aaRS or aaRS. aaRS, literally aaRS. That's the name of a protein. In fact, there's 20 of them, and together they literally ligate the genetic code. The amino acids and the tRNAs, they get ligated together by aaRSs, 20 of them. They form a society, and I've linked my paper with the details if anyone wants to go into that. But there's a semiotic structure to life. The process of science is how life seems to have evolved and is evolving. And so natural selection seems a bit like, that's way to have proved that evolution happens. But evolution is, that's the natural selection is the historical way we could just definitively say things are changing. But that's not how things are changing. Things are changing semiotically. Symbiosis is a conversation between two partners that ends up in merging, symbiogenesis. And so biosemiotics is literally making meaning real outside of us. So that tree is actually meaningful as it is. And it's also making meaning by talking to other creatures, other organisms, bacteria, fungi. We're talking to our guts right now, our brains. We have two brains. The first brain evolved in our gut. Then there's the second brain. And they've always had a bidirectional signaling communication mechanism. The gut-brain nexus, the GBA. Communication is the ontology of life, meaning making. So we're not just information processing cyborgs. We are biosemiotic organisms that are meaningful in every way. And there are folks that have gone into nihilism and they said, there's no meaning in this world. We are just machines. But actually, meaning is the structure, which means your hand is meaningful. There's meaning in this. Things mean things to each other in this, And so that is cognition. There's cognition here. And finally, there is mind here, because mind is just meaning-making processes, But if you want to talk about thinking, I think thinking is different. Consciousness, that's, we can have a debate about those. But certainly mind, cognition, and semiosis, meaning-making, all these things are absolutely our biological ontology. A virus can infect a bacterium and cause the bacterium to evolve using the CRISPR systems and whatnot to actually have more DNA by the end of it, the lysogenic or life cycle of the virus. And that's basically interpretation that has led to symbiogenesis. That's interpretation of a sign vehicle as which is the proper way to say it, the representamen, the thing that holds the sign, the vicegerent, as John Poinsot would have said in the Iberian Peninsula, 300 odd, 400 odd years ago. Yeah, I don't know what I was saying, but yeah, we're meaningful, basically, and that's why nihilism doesn't make sense philosophically. It just doesn't make sense, nihilism. And you might not know you're a nihilist, but and you're not a personal nihilist. You have a good day, but we're very cosmologically nihilists. So biosemiotics is just proof, that meaning is real at every level, all the time, even while you're sleeping. And yeah, so this dirty word meaning, it's almost there with teleology, is back in biology. Meaning is real, tangibly real. There it is. There's meaning right there. I was pointing at my hand.